Your dog's upset about something.
Yeah, he'll be quiet in a minute. Go ahead, dog.
Hey there, this is Mobile Agent TV, helping agents stay on the cutting edge from coast to coast.
Welcome to Mobile Agent TV. I am Michael Thorne of Remax Little Oak Realty in Langley, BC, and my co-host, as always, is Dave Falkware from Bridgewater, New Jersey's Remax Preferred Professionals in the Enviro Realty team. Dave, it's been a long time. We haven't been on the show since prior to R4. Your real estate market has been busy. My real estate market has been crazy. But the most important thing that we need to talk about is the New York Mets. You know what? Watching the New York Mets makes this 41-year-old think that I still got a chance to hit a dinger in Major League Baseball. Wasn't that something special?
Colo Cologne.
Man, 42 years old, a specimen of health, and knocks one out.
Yeah, right. They're taking up where they left off last year. It's been exciting so far. I haven't been to a game yet. I've been too busy. And just so you know, you may have saw it on Facebook. If you remember last year when the Kansas City Royals beat us and I had to wear that stupid hat.
Yes.
Remember that episode? With
yes.
Dan Vick? We all know Dan Vick.
Yeah.
Well, one of our local agents here went to Kansas City. Her nephew was on the New York Mets, Eric Young Jr. He went to Kansas City. She didn't know Dan Vick, but whenever she goes anywhere, she visits Remax office. She's a Remax agent. She just stops in. Here's my card, blah, blah, blah. She runs into Dan Vick. Dan Vick says, "Oh, you're from New Jersey. Do you know Dave Falkware? I got something for you." I sent the hat back to him. He gave the hat to her. She brings it back to New Jersey. And yesterday I did a listing seminar thing for 60 agents for a couple of the offices. And Chiquita walks in and hands me back the hat.
Okay. Well, on that note, Dave, we've done this every year. You've been shockingly right in the NFL and the Major League Baseball. Let's go. Predictions, World Series 2016. What is it?
New York Mets, Boston Red Sox.
Okay. I'll go New York Mets, Seattle Mariners.
Toronto Blue Jays. Maybe. Outside chance in there.
All right. Here we go. So pretty exciting episode. We are broadcasting live from Remax World Headquarters here in Denver, Colorado. We are currently on the 12th floor. I am in the office of Remax CEO, Adam Contos. And Adam, it's a tradition on the show that we read out people's 160 Twitter bio. And you are a social media guy.
There you go.
So here we go. You can get Adam on Twitter @acontos, and his 160 Twitter bio reads, Dad, husband, COO, technology geek, early adopter, and professional amateur gadget critic and student every day, Adam Contos. Thanks for coming on.
Glad to be here.
So we're in your office, and there's some memorabilia behind us, behind your desk, of your former days.
Yep.
And when you hear former SWAT commander and then you hear COO of Remax, how does that journey take place? How do you go from SWAT commander and end up here at World Headquarters?
Still trying to figure that out myself. And Jesse's back there digging through my cabinets. So if something goes bang here, so watch out. But I used to own a security consulting company that I had started and was working in the real estate industry, helping agents not get hurt and killed doing their jobs. You know, unfortunately, we still see that happen occasionally. It happens way too much.
Yeah.
You know, occasionally it's too much for any of our friends in the business. So Remax hired me to deliver that safety message to agents around North America. Did a 32-city speaking tour in 2003. And I started doing business consulting for offices during the process. And then Remax said, "Hey, why don't you come on board?" And it's been a journey ever since. I've worked in California and Hawaii. I've worked in the Mountain States region. I've worked in Florida. I worked in the business development and marketing departments and ended up in this office here.
And you're even more tied to the Remax brand than that, because Remax is at home all the time. Your wife is a Remax agent.
I live it. She's she's married to the mob, so you know it's there. But in fact, I was talking to her right before the show here, and she's out showing one of her listings right now.
Yeah.
So I live it 24/7.
Now, when I was prepping for the show and doing the little promo video, Dave, that we put out, and you saw that, I read down all the things that you're involved in sort of overseeing, and it's overwhelming. But you and I and Jesse had breakfast together the other day. One of the things that maybe is the reasoning for that is so that all the different balls in motion here at headquarters sort of have some sort of continuity about them.
Right.
So talk about maybe your role in making sure that all the different things that are happening here, because each floor has a different purpose when you go through this building, that they're all sort of are pulling together for the same purpose.
It's complicated, but it's simple. We have, you know, a specific value chain that we have to deliver to the customer base, to, you know, in starting kind of in reverse, the consumer, the agent, the broker, the region, and, you know, overall the brand. So we look at all the different aspects of how do we deliver value and how those things play together to keep this company, this brand, and the agents and the brokers to be the very best in the industry. What can we do to continue to help facilitate that? So all of those have to line up, and it's my job to help those line up.
Yeah.
And I work with several other business unit leaders in the organization in order to achieve that. So it's, you know, we're definitely heavily involved in and heavily invested in the success of everybody out there in the business. You know, we want everybody to succeed.
And you used the word, when we were talking yesterday, you used the word the cascading. And Dave, this is one of the things we talk about is how do you close the gap of information and flow of what's happening between the consumer, the agent, then the agent to the broker, then the broker to the region then to headquarters. And Dave, that's important that gap is as close as it possibly can be, because there's so many moving parts in this industry. Because Dave, you and I have talked about this many, many times. It's one of the really odd industries that the guy on the ground is the one that's creating the momentum of the agent, and it's cascading almost the opposite direction because we're all individual business owners sort of doing the same thing.
Well, and to me, it's the reason that, you know, our company, not unlike in a lot of other companies, we've had our ups, we've had our downs, you know, we struggle, and we constantly are evolving and getting better and better, and we've become a better company. It's because of what goes on right at this level that I'm working at right now. It's like because of the structure of the agent and what we, you know, the uniqueness of what we do here as real estate agents is why we can get through all of those times, and it just kind of filters right on up. Company keeps growing, we keep hitting more market share, we consistently have the top producers, and we're better than anybody else in the industry. And then nobody's going to tell me any different.
Yeah, and I sat down because, you know, Dave, I don't know what your feelings are about. I think I do know your feelings about the last year's, especially the commercial campaign that RE/MAX did. It was very fresh and it was very vibrant. And I said to Adam, I said, you know, it must be interesting to be in a position where RE/MAX is not only trying to market the value to the end consumer, who we deal with, but also trying to market the value to potential other people thinking about getting into the industry, people at other companies that are looking to be much more with the professionals. And Adam, you basically said it all just comes down to the consumer, because if the consumer is happy, then people are going to want to work in those brokerages. The broker is happy, the region's happy, and then it sort of cascades through. So talk about when you guys put together the campaign, when you guys put together those notes, those cues, those expressions, those points to market. How do you determine what's going to resonate in the ears of the consumer?
That's a great question, and that's exactly where we start when we develop these commercial campaigns, and we're actually in the process of developing 2017s right now, doing the same thing, and what we did was we took a look at what are the challenges of the consumer and what is the expertise that the agent helps deliver to that challenge in order to solve it. A lot of times the consumer doesn't even know what their challenge is. So we've got to get their attention. We have to fight through all this noise that's out there in the industry right now, and on TV and in the marketplace, digitally, you know, wherever you go, and get their attention, identify their challenges, and show them where that gap is that the agent is needed for. And that gap is massive. There's so much expertise in here. It's like walking into the dentist and going, do I choose the dentist or do I choose the self-checkout line? There's no self-checkout line at the dentist for a reason. Well, there isn't in this business either for a reason. It's just identifying that to the consumer and then making it fun for them to consume. So, and then obviously putting the agent in that place to deliver that message. Once they can identify with that agent and that agent delivering upon their challenges, we work our way backwards into okay, what's sticky? What stays in their head?
Yeah.
So you saw a little bit of the Dr. Seuss spin on the commercials. You saw very much the jump cuts, the singular snackable content where you could say one or two things, and it just kind of works its way backwards, and we go, oh, this is it. Yeah. We pick a director. The agency that we use, which is Camp and King out of San Francisco, they're fabulous. They they set all that stuff up. We sit there and watch what they're doing, and they say A, B, or C, and you pick one, and they dig something else and throw it in there, and next thing you know, you're going, wow, it's brilliant. Yeah. So it is about the consumer. It's about the agent and that consumer interaction, how the agent's expertise is solving those challenges. But ultimately, it all starts with the consumer going, oh, I have that challenge. Yeah. And they didn't even know it, and the agent delivering on it.
And also don't realize that an agent can solve that challenge. Right. Like, it's one thing to know that you have a challenge, but it's one thing to know, Dave, that agent is there with those expertise to solve those issues. I mean, that's really what we're doing. I think it has gone to, and one of the things you said yesterday that has just stuck with me completely is that value has to sort of get higher than the noise, because the noise is so high, Dave. It went from being not noisy. The consumer had no information. They have so much information now that we have to, as an industry or as a company, raise our value higher than the noise. So people go, oh, I don't need to listen to that noise. I can go to the value. So talk a little bit about that sort of philosophy. And really, that's one of the harder things agents are facing right now, because it's super noisy.
And Adam, if you could incorporate into that the noise, the noise for the agent is the same thing. The consumer has all this noise; they don't know where to go. The agents are in the same situation. There's so much stuff coming at agents. Oh, this new bells and whistle, that new thing, this thing. I mean, we're over here at Zillow. I mean, all of the different controversy, and on a daily basis, most agents are just inundated with this stuff, and they don't know which direction to go in.
Yeah, it's. I'll say we're all obsessively compulsive with the next thing, and unfortunately, that's a self-deprecating situation. As soon as you start chasing everything, you capture nothing, and that's what's happened to marketing. People see all these things everywhere, and they don't know which one to listen to. So it's noise. It's really noisy out there, especially in the U.S. with the election cycle coming up and things like that. It's crazy terrible. So where do we go? Well, people seek value when there's so much noise. And as soon as they start noticing that value, and that value is doing more for them than the noise is, they will start being attracted to the value. And really what the value is things done well consistently. So as soon as we can start showing consistency in our marketing, which you'll notice all of our campaigns kind of add up to the same thing, the same tempo, the same idea, the same fun. They trigger the same emotion in your heart and in your head. People start gravitating towards those things, just like an agent's marketing in the marketplace. When you guys are teaching these video courses, it's consistency. It's similar things done well over time. That creates greatness. And people are attracted to that. They hear it 5-7 times and they go, oh, this is where I'm getting my value. So you're fighting through the noise with value. That value is exceeding the level of noise in their thought process. And that's where they're going to continue to go. And Dave, you're absolutely right. As soon as people start chasing, not chasing one tail, but chasing a bunch of tails, they're not going to catch any of them. And their business is going to be scattered. It's about consistency. It's about having a system to consistently do something in the place and the way that people want to receive, and that is with value.
And that's one of the things too. Consistency without value is adding to the noise. Right. And so one of the things that I think as agents we need to do, and obviously the brand does too, is really identify, get to know the consumer and their headaches, and provide those solutions openly to the consumer. Gone are the days that I will add value once you're in front of me. We now have to add value, Dave. It's the showing up when they're ready to learn, not when they're ready to buy. And you do this with, here's what it's like to live in this neighborhood. Here's what the things are. Here's the things you need to know about buying or selling in Bridgewater, New Jersey. We used to provide that information once they were in front of us in our office, sort of in that get to know you stage. Now that has to be put out there. And so you, I think, have to be very aware. Are you adding to the noise, or are you adding value that will eventually get louder than the noise, or clearer, that you said sort of have to be much more targeted with your messaging, Dave? And Dave, that's changed for you dramatically, and it has for me in your long career, that now you have to be willing to give that value away opposed to being able to hold on to it, because we can't hold on to it anymore.
Give it away with no expectation of anything in return, and it does come back. You just keep putting it out there, keep putting it. So there's my takeaway already. We already hit the takeaway. The takeaway is consistency, because the noise is
15 minutes in, we're done. Thank you. No,
we're done. The noise has bothered me, for a long. I've already been vocal about that. The noise for the agents, the noise for the consumer. It's like the world's crazy. It's just crazy. And to kind of figure it out is it's unique if you can do it. And I think what Adam just said, that's the key.
And here's the thing too is, and we talked about this, Adam, before we got on the show too as well, is you put in a lot of effort in research to make sure the messaging is being resonating. So you must do some research and go identify what the consumer pain points are or what the issues are. How does what the research does for RE/MAX at a large scale impact that Dave has to do the same thing in his marketplace in New Jersey? What have you guys learned in the 2016 real estate world are those points that any agent in their smaller market can reaffirm in a more localized way to their potential consumer?
Well, every consumer, all these different marketplaces have something particular that catches people's eye. I mean, it might be, if there's something that has to do with the Mets, in a particular area, or whatever your team might be, or whatever the current action is going on in the area. A lot of those things catch people's attention instead of the generic noise. But there's also that across the real estate realm. We're trying to identify the broad scale realm of what's bothering people. How do we narrow that down into very few points to catch their attention so they go, oh, what is that? I want to hear some more. Oh, then they hear it again. Oh, this must be serious. I want to hear some more. The agent has to do that similarly in a very small amount of content. A 3,000 word blog post is not going to, get that going. Let's narrow this down to a few things that you can say to get people's attention that ties into real estate, ties into their challenges, and ties into your area, just like what we're doing across the board to push them down to the agents in order to get their attention and keep it. So the world works in you read my Twitter statement there. The world works in 140 characters or less, and that's how people think. In fact, they want nothing more than to consume little bite-sized pieces of information throughout the day. And if those bite-sized pieces answer their challenges and they happen to be you providing them, awesome, that's a win.
Yeah. And then, Dave, it gets down to identifying their pain points as a brand, then as a local market. Then when you get that one individual in front of you to sit down and say, what are your challenges? What are you trying to achieve? I think, Dave, you're very, expectations. What is it that this particular client, and then each client sort of gets your expertise of your 30 years in this business to solve those pain points. And I think, it's this funny thing, we have to be mass. And then as we get down, we got to get down right down to what any individual agent has their pain points, because if you can solve them and solve them well, then you have an advocate for life. And that's how you build a business and not be transactional.
Well, that's how we built our business. I mean, in that realm, nothing's really changed. I mean, we've been doing that for 35 years. What are your needs and how am I going to solve it? It's a typical sales pitch, if you will. All right. And when it comes to that, nothing's really changed. I mean, we're still doing that part of our business the exact same way when we get down to that level.
Absolutely. So walking around the hallways, bumping into some familiar faces, Amy Somerville, CG Vasquez, and a bunch of other people. I said, I'm going to sit down and talk with Adam on Friday. What are the sort of things that you think that he's got that I can really dig into? And the common theme through that all was one word, and it was pivot. It's really that where we as an individual agent, as an industry, or as a brand have to look for opportunities to pivot. And so I love that word because Dave sees the same way. Whether you call it disruption, whether you call it change, those bring opportunities if you act upon them.
Right.
So as a brand, or as an industry, or as an individual, where do you see the opportunities for all three of those categories, an industry, a brand, and an agent, to pivot in 2016? Where should we be making sure our focus moves from one to another to make sure that we continue to build a business and be the leaders?
Well, I'm going to go back to something that Dave's already said, because it is money, and everybody needs to pivot on what they're giving away. A lot of people give away the branding, and they think that's really marketing. No, that's advertising. There's a difference between marketing and advertising. Advertising is pushing information out. Marketing is pulling people in through inbound efforts. Well, Dave mentioned, give away great things. I'm going to say on your deliverables to the marketplace, everybody needs to pivot on that, and they need to give away their best stuff they have. They need to create a few things about their marketplace with their branding, with the brand's branding, supplementing that, pivot on that, and just go all in on it. This isn't a let's try it. This is I'm going to give you the best stuff that I have about this. You're not doing the transaction form for free. You're giving them the best information you can about the marketplace. Pivot on your marketing and go with that. Shoot some video about it, be consistent with it, but give that away. And you've got a perfect place to start. Go back to all of your past customers. Dave mentioned, the repeat and referral business. Well, we're not in a lead to close business here. The majority of this business is close to close. Yeah. More than half of it is when they leave the closing table, they've decided to use you again at that point. But a lot of people lose track of that customer from that point. So now it's, I need to go generate some more leads. It's lead to close. No, it's close to close.
You've already generated the know, like, and trust. You've already done it successfully. Now that's maintaining that relationship is far less calories than creating that relationship.
It is.
And that's a consistent theme on the show, Dave, is I don't understand why you wouldn't maintain that relationship when you, and the thing too as well, I always hear people leads, opposed to put the effort in converting the ones that you already have.
Right.
That's a big change too as well.
Here's another idea. Think of advocacy. Instead of advertising, think of advocacy. So what you're not trying to get people to advertise for you. You're trying to get them to advocate for you. So as soon as you turn your customers into advocates for your brand, your business, they will go out and sell for you. There's your new leads. And you continue to foster that by putting yourself in the marketplace with good content. And, just by the byproduct of that, you're going to generate new business, but you're also going to keep that old business, and it's going to build upon itself to help build your business.
Yeah, Dave, I said it before, is your next customer is the customer who's right in front of you right now, because if you stay in front of that customer, they're the ones that are going to rave about you forever. A lot of times we have a customer right in front of us, and half of our attention is worried about tomorrow. If you just take care of what's in front of you, Dave, and you've been doing this for a long, long time, that's the easiest, best, and most predictable way to grow a business. And perhaps that's if there is an issue, it's being able to think 5 years out, to think 10 years out.
Just yesterday, we did a version of our put wow in your listing presentation for, 50, 60 RE/MAX agents. One of the offices put the thing together. Vanessa and I did it. We talked about, we're not in this for the money. You have to get in this, but not be in it for the money. And most, how many, I said, raise your hands if you're in this for the money, to make money. And they all raise their hands. I said, well, you're not in it for the money. If you want to have not a transactional business, you're in it for the service. You need to serve your clients. Keep serving your clients. Keep serving them even when they're not a client. Keep serving them, and you will make money. And it was a hard thing for some of them to kind of put their heads around. And it is a very hard concept. But it's not about the money. It's about the service. And if you serve them, the money will just flow in the door, as we all know.
And the thing too, Dave, and to go back to what Adam said too as well, is when you think about the money, sometimes your priority shifts, and therefore it's not the consumer. That way you're converting less advocates, because if you do put the consumer first, you create an advocate, and that advocate will generate more business than any advertising marketing will ever do. And so, that's a lesson. Once again, Dave, it's very, very hard for a lot of agents. Luckily, we've got a lot of those agents that have figured it out are under the RE/MAX umbrella. There's a reason why they're here, but that's definitely an issue too as well.
But again, that's what I said before. It's like down here in the trenches for however many years RE/MAX has been in existence. The philosophy primarily has been that way. That's why our company keeps growing.
Okay, so Dave, you've been at this business a very long time. We talked about this very, very long time. You've been at RE/MAX at the time where it was very kind of mavericky. You were doing something new. You were the new kids on the block. You guys were shaking up the industry. There was a lot of young energy and excitement about it. And then over the years, because of that maverick attitude, the company grows and grows and grows, and probably somewhere in the early 90s becomes that dominant brand, that #1 brand in the industry throughout North America and now around the world. Eventually, that becomes the blue chip real estate brand in the world, then becomes a publicly traded company, yet built on Maverick roots. And this is a question we asked Mr. Lineker, Dave, when we sat down with him at R4 a couple years ago, and I sing it a little bit more perhaps in the most recent advertising. The most recent advertising, Dave, is probably the youngest advertising that we've seen for a little bit of a while. But I loved your answer and your sort of input about it is, how does RE/MAX, or how do they continue? Because I know your answer, you say absolutely we're doing it. How does RE/MAX continue to be that young, push the boundaries, Maverick excitement, and still be that blue chip Nike, McDonald's, IBM?
Well, I mean, it was first going through the IPO and things like that was interesting. Learning the federal regulations and what we can and can't do, what we can and cannot say. But ultimately, when you take a step back, it really didn't change the thought process and the value drive of the company. It's still about, hey, how do we go out and and I think disrupt is a way overused, but how do we continue to go out and disrupt the industry? Because frankly, this industry right now is begging for, this punch in the face, people going, whoa, what's new? Because we have to go out and we have to shake it up. But in all reality, the way that we look at this is we're in the 4th generation of the senior leadership in this organization. And I think probably the average age of the 4th generation is about 40 years old. And I'm the old guy in the 4th generation here, but the reality is Dave still sits, like Gail sits 2 doors that way and Dave sits right on the other side of her. So those guys are still here, driving the bus, and Dave was walking around here earlier with his dog Max. So it's about, what are we going to do today to shake things up? So regardless of the age or who's running what or where they are, it's about how do we do what's best for the agent and the consumer, and help our brokers build profitable brokerages through profitable agents and happy consumers. So it's, we're trying to think outside of that proverbial box every day in order to do that. We're looking at how do we pivot on everything, and where do we find energy and excitement? Nobody wants the stodgy doldrum of, okay, sell your house with us. And unfortunately, that the industry could, if it rests, will fall into that. Yeah. Because this is, overall, the industry is an older industry, not necessarily the people in it, but the industry itself. And you look at the mindset though, and the mindset's begging to be this crazy wild child today. It's really neat. So we're taking advantage of that with our messaging, with the delivery. We're shortening things up, how people want to consume them, being a little more edgy, trying to, like I showed you something earlier today about how, we're smarter than the internet and things like that. It's kind of fun to poke fun at things, but also make a statement of, here's where we're at, why we're there, and why we're going to be the best for you. And people want a balance of those. They want to be fun, but they want serious when it comes to serious time. So that's what we're working on. Yeah. It's happening throughout the industry. A lot of people are making a lot of money still. We have more generations coming into it. Yeah. We still have those that are experienced in it, staying in it because they're kicking butt. Yeah. And why stop a good thing if you're having fun with it? It's a great business. So
you see the big smile on my face. You see this big smile on my face? I don't smile that often, but I'm gonna tell you, I've been around for a long time, and early on when Dave would be walking around at convention with the walkie-talkie, running things and directing people, and I've been in situations with him, and he's like the heart and soul of our company, which we all know. And most of us older agents, that's kind of where we came from. And it scared the hell out of me when we became an LLC. Oh, we're going to be corporate. Nobody's going to know. No, here we go. We're going to be the old Coca-Cola company and nothing's going to happen. And what you just said brings joy to my heart, that you guys are out there at LLC and there's a bunch of young guys looking to shake things up and be the disruptor, because that's kind of what keeps us old guys going. And for us to go forward, as a company, we're going to need all this young blood and all of this stuff, and us experienced people. All right. No, I'm not old. I'm experienced. We've got a lot to say. And I think for us to stay around is really valuable. It's really valuable because we got a lot to say, and to know that you guys got our back in a sense that we're still going to be cutting edge here, because there's a lot of people looking to knock us off. You all know that.
Yeah.
So,
And Dave, you've been at this for we keep saying it, you've been at it for a while, and so have I, but and the business is so much different today. The business is not different. Society is so different today. The internet has changed everything. Adam, what do you see as that one or two opportunities that an agent has now that they didn't have 5-6 years ago they should pivot and grab? That because there's a lot more opportunity to do things differently, to do things more unique now because of connectivity, communication, internet, technology, and you love all that stuff. So what do you see as opportunities for agents to grab things?
One of the key components is utilizing the data that is out there. It's you look at, for instance, Facebook. And you guys were teaching a class earlier this week on dark posts and video and how to maximize specific laser targeting of your customer base. It's still great to take and blanket an area that you're farming in with direct mail or just listed postcards or things like that, but you also need to be laser targeting your customers. You need them to know that you're there for them, and you can do that. It's not difficult. It's not challenging. And frankly, it's really inexpensive. It's probably the most inexpensive marketing you can possibly do at this point, but nobody's doing it.
Yeah.
So I shouldn't say nobody.
Yeah.
A few people are doing it, and they're quite effective at it.
Yeah.
I mean, as you guys can attest to that.
Yeah.
So I think once our industry catches up with some of the other industries that are doing that laser targeting, I think you're going to see kind of the separation of those that are doing it from those that aren't, because when you go and knock on somebody's door, they're going to say, oh, I just saw Michael on my Facebook feed for the 3rd time this week. Where were you at? Now you're knocking on my door. So it's, you got to balance those things, but if you're not laser targeting your customers and laser targeting your past customers, like we talked about earlier, I think you're missing out. So it's got to be about focus. And it's got to be about consistency with those people.
So, and also on that note was one of the questions I had written down, and it's perfect timing. The importance in 2016 to burn your calories deep versus wide. And Dave, you say this all the time too as well, deep versus wide. You can burn the same amount of calories, but there's so much, the odds of wide working where that relationship is just very surface. And I think by wide, I probably go back and say that was noise. Deep is probably value. So in 2016, why is deep so much more important and so much more profitable, or conversion rate goes up?
Well, it's not one or two instances of value that works with people. Yeah. And if you're casting a wide net, you're going to hit people occasionally with one or two instances of value. It's about you being there constantly for them with that value. And there's a saying that there are riches in the niches. And you're telling people to niche really deep in their customer base. Yeah. Just target them really deeply and go after them really deeply. If you're going after this massive apartment complex that's near a new development, go after it. Don't just sprinkle something out there and run off hoping somebody's going to do something for you. The phone's not going to ring because you sent out a postcard. Yeah. It's going to ring because you delivered value repeatedly to this set of people, and someone's going to go, Michael, I got your stuff. It's time. Yeah. So it's the riches are in the niches, and that's in your marketing. You've got to niche deep.
And two as well. Okay, let's use that old blanket of the mentality, Dave. I don't know if you guys get sort of real estate flyers at your place regularly. I've been to your home, but let's say the average person gets 5 or 6 pieces sort of direct mail from a real estate agent on a weekly basis. What can possibly differentiate from that, especially when that's an ask, right? That's an advertising versus marketing. So on that note, what can agents be doing to differentiate themselves? And perhaps it keeps going back to the same thing. If you're consistent with value, not enough agents are doing that, and that's the way to differentiate yourself. So Dave, too, as well, that just saying, I'm here, I'm ready to list your home, isn't adding value. That's advertising versus marketing. there's really no difference between one ad and the other. And what is a consumer in 2016 going to trust? You've already said, Dave, you've never purchased anything that's worth more than $200 in the last 5 years that you didn't review or get a Google search on or peer recommendation. So you wouldn't do it. Why would you do that with the most important and financial instrument, as Lee Brown says, that you probably own? You know, people are going to go into this blind.
The last 2 listings that we got, the highest price listings we have right now, we sat in front of the consumer doing a listing presentation, and both of these people asked me questions about mobile agent TV. What's this mobile agent TV thing? And I go, well, how do you know about mobile agent TV? I Googled it. All right. And it was our second appointment. And between the first and the second appointment, they went and Googled us, and they found all of this stuff, and they were asking me questions about it. So you're absolutely right. I mean, and I Google everything. I want to know about what I'm buying, what I'm doing. I'm doing a lot of research on a lot of things right now, and I'm sure every consumer does it, no matter how old they are.
And shouldn't we do it as an industry? Funny enough, because we talked about the same thing too, is if you're about to go into an appointment, Dave, and you know their email address or you know their name, if you aren't getting on LinkedIn and finding something that's important and here to as well, Dave, and I don't think, I think I can ask you, do you think that that's their expectation, that they think that you're a smart agent if you do that, or do they think that you're a creepy person if you do it in 2016, maybe in 2009, but now, don't they expect you to do your homework and find something in common?
Yeah, as long as it's nothing creepy.
No, it's not something creepy. But if I knew you had a dog, or if I knew you were a Mets fan, or if I knew if you had kids, and I could show up with some crayons or a coloring book or a dog biscuit, as you said, you know, that's just saying that you're paying attention, that you understand what's going on. They know that their information is about you. They just did it to you. They Googled you. So that shouldn't be any different. We should be doing that as an industry.
Yeah, you're right. And it also shows you some things maybe not to talk about. You know, I mean, there's sensitive issues between people. Hey, I shouldn't go in and say anything about this. This person is overly political. You know, I can be that way, but they're on the other side of the issue. So but we're not even going to make sure, Vanessa, we don't talk about politics. All right. We've had a couple episodes of that because we Googled them. We found out what create some of the stuff they had up, and I go, we're not talking about that because right now, like Adam said, the political scene in our country right now, this is like in all my years, I've seen nothing like this. This is nuts.
But do you think, okay, let's compare what's happening in the political campaign in the United States with the real estate industry. Do you think that's because the people that are involved, or do you think that as we get noisier and more soundbitey and more little snippets, that sure, we've got some characters involved in this particular U.S. election, but do you think that also our society and the way we communicate and we just take little snippets contributes to it as much as anything else?
Oh, absolutely, because if you look at most of it, unless you really do your research, most of it's nonsense. It's like it's nonsense. People are putting up stuff, and then somebody looks at it on Facebook or wherever, and the next thing you know, they're having a comment. Did you see what was on Facebook yesterday about someone? Did you know so-and-so did this? And there's no validity to probably 90% of it. It's just spin.
Yeah, agreed. So Dave's a huge fan of video. I'm a huge fan of video. You're a fan of video. You know, I've mentioned that quite often. Why is video so important? Why is video so important?
Well, I mean, it personalizes you. It's you. People get a postcard and they see a listing on it, and your photo from a few years ago is back in the corner. But it's not warm. It's not conversational. I think video gets people excited about who they're meeting, and every time it's used, it's the delivery of you and your feelings to create an experience. Experience and that emotion that it creates is where people park their memory. Mm-hmm. That's what they remember about you. So, you know, they see a bad video, or they see, you know, like Dave mentioned, a political video, which, by the way, don't put politics on your social media. You just lost 50% of your customers if you did. So don't even go down that road. But the reality is, put yourself out there. Have video on it. And the funny thing is, people are afraid of it. They're afraid of getting on video and saying, I don't look good on it. You're right. You don't. Get over it. Get past that, because the second time you look twice as good as the first time, and so on and so forth. So you got to start somewhere. Video is the future. People want to know who you are. It's like the table stakes now. It used to be if you didn't have a photo, nobody would talk to you. Now, if you don't have video, forget it. They want to see what you're about and your feelings. So go for it.
Yeah, and it's true, because what you're doing is you're changing the amount of time that you spend with a potential consumer, Dave, too, as well, is because instead of sitting down at a coffee shop or at an office and realizing you're not a good fit, that's a lot of time and energy in a very busy real estate market. That decision will be made by the consumer prior to them ever reaching out to you, because they have a sense of who you actually are. And the people that connect with you will connect with you much deeper than just a postcard or something else. And the people that don't connect with you, Dave, which I don't imagine people don't connect with you, maybe it's that Mets hat. You will have those people eliminated from making the phone call, from asking you out to the coffee shop, from having to follow up on. And the reality is, we aren't meant to work with every buyer and seller. We aren't meant to work with every buyer and seller. But wouldn't it be great if we could identify those people, or have those people identify us as the person that they should be connecting with? Dave, you and I in our lifetime have spent maybe 50, 60 hours face-to-face with. You are one of the most important professional and personal people in my life, because we do this for an hour every week. And there's not a whole lot more different between hanging out, talking like this, than being belly to belly. And, we're very busy people. And so video allows you to let people consume your message at the time that they want to consume that, at a very, very scalable level in a 2016 world, with almost no cost to entry.
If you remember the quick hit that I just did, the very first part was they asked about what the most important component of a listing presentation was. And what I said was, we talked for the whole first hour about this in this thing we did yesterday. None of the components of your listing presentation mean a thing if you don't connect with the client. You got to connect with them first, right? And then you do that through video, through BombBomb. And you may, before you meet them the first time, you do your little BombBomb video. They're starting to connect with you. You get there, you meet them, you connect. And if you don't connect, it doesn't matter what your tools are. You have to connect with them on a personal level. Forget social media. Put that all aside. You have to, human to human, belly to belly, and that's what works the best. You still got to put them in your car.
You still got to put them in your car. And the thing too as well is, if we're trying to compare apples to apples, and they have seen your personality, Dave, and let's say they relate 75% to your personality, but they don't know that what their rating of relationship to the other agent they're considering. Maybe they're a perfect fit for each other, because that other agent never gave them the opportunity to hear them speak, hear their gait, hear their rhythm, hear their passion. Then how can they possibly take the risk that might not be the right guy? So even if you're doing it, guess what? Your competition is doing it. We just spent the last 2 days here at headquarters doing our video boot camp. And we have 50 agents in that boot camp that are just starting out to do video, just starting out. And as of today, they're in the top 1% of agents in our industry doing video. That's a scary, scary thing to think, that if you are looking for an edge in 2016, video will put you in the top 1% the day you execute against it.
And what's that tell you about the opportunities out there?
Yeah, there's huge opportunities. And what was it you say, Dave, all the time? If people actually worked or actually worked as hard, that we'd all get paid a little less. What's your expression that you talk about?
Somebody complains about another agent. I said, well, if we all knew what we were doing, all right, everybody knows what they're doing. Everybody's on the same level. We'd be getting $300 for every transaction we close, right? That's the way it would be. So don't complain when somebody doesn't know what they're doing, or they don't want to go get educated, or they don't want to use common sense on how they approach their clients. Just thank God for those people. You step up and take their place because they can't do it. And that's why you get rewarded the way you get rewarded. So don't complain when somebody screws up.
I think there's a message in that. It's use video, give yourself a raise, right?
Yeah.
Isn't that kind of what it is?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, Adam, you're here. This is the 4th generation of executive on this level, like you said. We talked about businesses in the sort of their 40-year lifespan where we are. What excites you? What really makes you and Dave and the other people here on this floor excited about 5 years from now?
I'll tell you, the thing that's exciting about 5 years from now is there are a lot of things that we're discovering today that are extraordinarily effective that it's going to take 5 years for a lot of other people to get involved in. So, such as the video marketing, such as the very laser targeting of customers. This industry is so slow to react to things that it allows us, because we still feel that we're extremely nimble. Even, Dave mentioned some of the concerns about going public. That was one of my concerns, is, are we still going to be nimble? Well, absolutely, we're nimble. I mean, it's kind of cool. I can pick up the phone right now and we can get something done. It's awesome. So for us to be able to take advantage of the things that we're discovering are extraordinarily effective today, and even take some risks, because you have to take risks in business. You have to take risks to discover what's on the other side of that idea and see what we can develop and what works. We took risks in our commercials for 2016.
Yeah, paid off.
So it totally paid off.
Yeah.
So we're trying to get ahead of the business. So as you keep widening that gap, that's my goal in my position and in this organization, is over the past 5 years to see how wide we can make that gap between the professionals and the high producing agents, those that are out there with the intent of creating wealth and a fabulous business in this industry, from those that are just dabbling in it. So that's what we're looking at, is the separation of the key leaders in the industry, which we know who those are, and those who are coming into the market are going to be, and those that are just kind of dabbling and really, the ones that you have to get up and walk around to the other side of the closing table in order to do their part of the paperwork and go back to your side and do your side.
That's never happened.
Right, exactly. So I think it's the acceleration of the successful in the business.
So then, therefore, on that note, how do you take these exciting opportunities to grow your business that you identify, that RE/MAX LLC identifies, and how do you make sure that it gets into Dave's arsenal, to use a SWAT term? How do you get that into Dave's arsenal so he can execute that? You guys identify it. You think that's an opportunity. You would, and then how does it get down to the agent?
The first component of that is really the one key thing that we have to all focus on, and that's time management. You've got to stop doing so much stuff and figure out what works and narrow that in and get it done every day. If you weren't managing your time, you wouldn't be putting out video every day.
Yeah.
You wouldn't be putting out these messages, these value pieces to your customers every day. You have to focus on getting that delivered on a daily basis. And the only way to do that is time management, because the rest of the day is going to take over if that's the case. Secondarily, you've got to do those few things well over and over and over again. Greatness is a few small things done well over and over again.
Yeah.
So it's the pivot point is those what are you doings, and Dave hit it on the head. Make them valuable, make them to your customers, make them valuable, and make them produce business. So eliminate all that extra noise. You don't need a giant toolbox full of stuff. You need a hammer and one or two other tools in order to make this happen, and focus on that instead of the next shiny thing, because we in this business have a tendency of chasing shiny things. Forget that. Get that out of your mentality.
Shiny things are cool.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, instead of the obsessive compulsive disorder of chasing shiny things, make it the obsessive compulsive advantage of focusing on a few things and going after what builds your business.
Adam, as long as you said that, one of the challenges that us as agents, right at the ground level, and your wife will probably tell you the same thing, is sometimes there's just too much. There's too much from our own company. There's just too many tools. And finding the right ones is sort of the key, but it becomes difficult to find the right tools because there's just too much in front of me. And going forward, I would just kind of say to you, because you're right there at the decision thing, just be careful about that. Let's get the right ones thrown at us. Eliminate some of this other stuff. Sometimes there's just way too much stuff. I see agents around me every day that just don't take advantage of the important stuff because they're looking at all these things and I'm doing a little this, little this, little this, little of that, just like you just said. And it becomes counterproductive.
Completely agree.
Well, we said, Dave, too, as well, is when I moved to RE/MAX, I was almost paralyzed with opportunity that I hadn't experienced before. And it took me a while to digest, like, oh my goodness, there's so much knowledge, there's so much opportunity, there's so much things that I can execute against that I had to be very careful of our time. And it took our team like 8 months to sort of get back up to speed because we're trying all this new stuff that's available for us, which is a blessing, but we do have to focus on our time. So one of the last questions, and Dave might have a last question. One of the last questions I want to ask you, Dave, or Adam, is I know one way that an agent on the ground can have communication, great communication back and forth with you on the executive level, and that's marry you and have breakfast with you and dinner with you. But how does the average agent out there somewhere in Canada, say in Winnipeg, Manitoba, that's snowing right now, even though it's May, how important is it that there's an open line of communication so you guys see the grassroots, we see the overall long-term direction? How important is that communication, and how can agents take advantage of that communication if it's possible to have?
Sure. I mean, we receive communication from agents every day. I know I do, Dave does, Gail does, Jeff Lewis, the president of Remax, does. So, I mean, it's, our corporate bios are online, or you can tweet me, you can send me a Facebook message, or you can email me, acontos@remax.com.
What do you like hearing from the agents? Like, what is it that you grab onto? I know there was a great Remax broker we saw having breakfast with you this morning. Jimmy Doolin is here in the building, and I asked Tom Maynard, I was having a meeting with him, I said, Jimmy made mention that he comes here quite often, and Maynard says, yeah, we like to hear what they're up to. Like, it's almost like instead of them coming here to get information from you, it's important that you're getting information from him. So what's the value that you like to get from the agents so that you can see what's the feeder on the ground for you guys?
Well, the agents are a great test case for these new ideas. I mean, you guys were here teaching a video class because video is working for you, and you've shown that video works throughout the network. So we're not asking for experiments of, hey, you ought to try this. Hey, let's try purple cars in front yards at houses we're selling. But what we're trying to do
Great idea.
Thank you. So what we are trying to do is hear the things that are, that we should be pivoting on with respect to the idea sharing. The power of a network is not in one place creating ideas. It's in gathering ideas from those that have tested and evaluated and like those and want to try and scale those ideas. So that's what we look for is, hey, come up with something. That's awesome. Let us know. We love to hear those great ideas. And if it's something that's beneficial across the network, or, if it just works in one part of the world, great. Let's try and replicate it and make it work in that part of the world and help those agents do better business. So it's about, listening to the network. We've always said, hey, the best ideas come from the field.
Yeah, Adam, where actually, in my opinion, where the best ideas are going to come from are from, I don't want to say lower level. I don't want to use that. We don't have any lower level agents, but to go to broker owners that have 282 agents, or talk to diamond level agents. Talk to diamond level agents to get their ideas, to me, is not really where the best ideas are coming from. I think the best ideas are coming from platinum level and 100% level agents who are out here every day really, really doing a different level of business. Team leaders, that's one thing, different level. But I think some of the best ideas can come from an area like that. That's just sort of my opinion, because I see, there's think tanks where we bring everybody to a certain place, and these are all of these, like, I did 1,000 transactions last year. Well, they're not doing 1,000 transactions belly to belly. These are agents that are sitting back there. Not that they're not working hard and they know what they're doing. They're running big teams. Again, best agents. Talk to your wife. I'm pretty wife.
Well, you know what? Well, just to say what Adam was saying about how open they are to hear from the agents. Jesse and I have been walking around the halls now for 3 days, and it's very open atmosphere here. And with 100,000 agents, Dave, of the best, the best 100,000 agents, there's some really, really smart people in our network. And we've had the privilege, Dave, on the show, is to sit down and sneak some of their ideas from a lot of them. And that's been immensely beneficial to my business and to yours, is to get these nuggets from people that are doing some really amazing things. So on that note, Dave, any final words, a takeaway from today's show? I think
other than the thing about consistency, I kind of really like that. Because again, with all the noise, just be consistent with the certain things that you pick out that you want to do. And I'm really, pretty happy to hear That LLC is still young and vibrant and still Dave Liniger-like. You know, when Dave had a little more energy, but I'm still sure he still walks around there and he doesn't let anything slip through the cracks. As far as I'm concerned, he's still a boss. So no offense, Adam.
He tells me every day.
Adam, you said
great man. He's a great man. He's changed a lot of lives.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes,
you said it a little early, a little quicker, but if people want to get a hold of you, you're sort of available everywhere, but go ahead and rattle off your Twitters and your emails and
at Contos, Contos at remax.com, and on Facebook, Adam Contos.
Adam Contos, Facebook. Awesome. Next week, Dave, we're doing a really cool show that I've been trying to find the right guests and definitely have found them. You know, one of the things, Dave, what's the difference between value of a home that has a finished basement or an unfinished basement in your marketplace? What's the value difference?
$10,000 to $20,000 depending on the price point.
Okay. Okay. How about you know, end unit in a townhome complex versus a middle unit in a townhouse complex?
$5,000 to $10,000 depending on the price point. You know, exactly. I mean, I know these things.
And so we know these things. We're professionals, and one of the things, Dave, that we have to be really great at, you have to be an expert in, is you've always said pricing. But what's going to be coming down the road for all of us very quickly is how having a smart home, how technology is going to change how we evaluate homes. How do we as an industry not only understand its value, then how do we have that value marketed to the potential consumer? So on the show, we're going to have Chad Curry, who's the managing director at National Association of Realtors, come on. He's an expert in this topic. And we're going to dig into something because we're seeing it right now in small little things, you know, Nest, you know, smoke alarms. And we're seeing it things where you can control your home from your iPhone and all these things coming. And we're at the tipping point. And as an industry, as RE/MAX agents, we want to stay at the cutting edge of understanding what the value of this is and how do we articulate it to the consumer. So that's tomorrow. That's next week's show, Friday, May 20th at 10 o'clock Pacific, 1 o'clock Eastern at mobileagenttv.com. I want to send a huge, big message out to a dear friend of ours, Dave. A lot of our American viewers might not know, but Melanie Gallia up in RE/MAX Fort McMurray, or Fort McMurray, she was the RE/MAX up there. 80,000 people that have completely been displaced from one of the most horrific national disasters in our Canadian history. She's gone back and Facebook Live from her street. Absolute devastation. You know, if you are in Canada, you can give to the Red Cross, and the Canadian government's going to match dollar for dollar the donations. And I know that RE/MAX puts something out too, and you can search it on the RE/MAX network to go out there and help the people out in Fort McMurray. They've got a long road back, and what's going to happen, as we've seen many times in recent years, that the media will leave 3 weeks from now, and this will all fall into the recesses of our mind, and they've got 3, 5, 10 years ahead of them to get back up on their feet. So Melanie and everyone in Fort McMurray, you know, we're definitely thinking about you. So as Melanie Gallia of RE/MAX Fort McMurray wants to end every show, tell 5 other RE/MAX agents about Mobile Agent TV. We grow every week. I never dreamed, Dave, 3 years ago that I'd be sitting here at RE/MAX headquarters getting to chat with Adam Contos, but you know, we didn't know where this adventure was going to go, but that's where it ends up. So it's pretty cool.
Yes,
so
I guess we really made the big time when you are when Mobile Agent TV is in their office. They didn't come to sit on a stage at R4. We're in his office.
Awesome, Dave. I've missed you so much. I know the real estate market has been crazy for you, as it is being here. Thank you, everyone, for watching. We'll be here next week. We've got a lot of great shows lined up. But really, Adam, thank you so much for coming on. I think it's really important for all the RE/MAX agents around to sort of, you know, get to see you and get to hear you and realize that we are all an amazing family, and the communication is there, and it means a lot. So I will shake your hands officially on screen. But thanks, Dave.
Thank you.
You're great. Hi to your dear wife, Vanessa, for me, and we'll see you guys all next week.